Inspiring interviews with today's top landlords. This is the Rental Income Podcast. And now, Dan Lane.
Greg, when you first started buying rental properties, you had a very different strategy than what you're doing today. Can you tell us what you were doing in the beginning?
Yeah. So, when I got started, I mean, you look at every deal that comes across your plate. If the numbers made sense, like if it looked like it had strong cash flow on paper, I was, doing the deal. But after a few years of doing it, kind of realized there were some differences in some of the properties and which ones were, actually cash flowing what they said and on a regular basis versus the ones that would have great months 1 month and then 2 bad months in a row. So totally changed our strategy and how we wanted to move forward with properties as we grew our portfolio.
Having really high cash flow 1 month and then maybe having no cash flow the next month can be really frustrating. And Greg really wanted that consistent cash flow month after month. And on the show today, we're going to see how he changed his strategy and what he's doing today to have consistent cash flow. Joining us on the show today from Springfield, Illinois is Greg Zessin. We'll take a quick break to thank our sponsors. We'll come right back and we'll talk to Greg. I've had tenants that have either broken their leases or stopped paying rent, and I'm sure you know this can be very expensive. It's very easy for the cost to exceed the amount of money you're holding for a security deposit, and because of this risk, I started using the guarantors to guarantee my leases. The guarantors protects your rental income against rent default, vacancy loss, lease breaks, holdovers, and more. And this is all at no cost to you. Your tenants pay for the insurance premium. If you want to learn more about their platform, check out my bonus episode from April 10th, 2025. It's titled How to Get the Rent Money Even If Your Tenant Doesn't Pay. If you're ready to sign up today, you can enroll within minutes by visiting theguarantors.com. Again, that's theguarantors.com. It's a lot of work to find a really good rental property, and when you actually find that property, you want to make sure you're working with a lender that can get that loan closed. The lender that I recommend is Chaley Ridge from Ridge Lending Group. She's a nationwide lender, and her specialty is helping investors finance rental properties. She has a ton of loan programs, and she can find something customized to you for your situation. If you want to find out more or you're ready to get started today, just go to ridgelendinggroup.com. That's RIDGE lendinggroup.com, NMLS 42056. Greg, let's start off talking about your portfolio. What does your portfolio look like today?
So today, right now, I'm sitting at about 68 units, mostly single family, some duplexes. I have some 4-plex townhouses, and I have 1 8-plex.
And today, your properties are all pretty consistent with cash flow?
Yeah, relatively speaking, most of them are pretty consistent now. There's a few that have some ups and downs that are some of my older properties that I've had for a while. But yeah, generally speaking, they're pretty consistent.
And what about appreciation? Is that something you're looking at when you buy a property?
That's actually probably one of my stronger focuses today. As much as I still want cash flow, and I still won't buy a property without cash flow. Long-term appreciation is my long-term goal. So
yeah, I mean, long-term appreciation is really incredible. It can kind of sneak up on you, but I think that over time you might be able to make more money on appreciation than cash flow. What do you think about that?
No, I would totally agree with that. Like, I know over the years, we would joke around with my wife, but she would be like, Jamie, just be like, hey, things aren't doing so well, just sell them all. She'd just be frustrated. And the next day, things would be going good, and she'd be like, okay, let's buy a couple more. But now today, like when we sit there and look at our personal financial statement and, the wealth that we've created by having these properties, especially a lot of them we bought even in the last like 7 or 8 years, it's like, okay, this is a no-brainer. There's no more discussions of let's sell them all,
Right.
Like,
Totally.
Yep.
All right. So let's figure out what changed. So when you were first starting out, you would just look at the numbers, and if the numbers look good on paper, you would buy the property. But in reality, the numbers on your spreadsheet weren't really translating in real life. Can you explain what was going on?
Yeah. So yeah, when we first started buying properties, like I said, we just kind of look at what the house cost, what it cost to fix it up, what the mortgage would be, with the taxes and insurance, and what the rent would be.
Mhm.
And so we didn't really do a good job of factoring capital expenses or general maintenance. So and we didn't look at the houses. We just, I mean, we looked at the houses, but we didn't think about what could go wrong with these houses.
Mm.
So a lot of the houses we ended up buying were much older houses. When I say older, I'm saying like they were built in like between 1890 and say 1950.
Okay.
And so those houses, a lot of times by this point have had, change of hands numerous times. So there's a lot of, you know, maintenance that's gone on that you don't know who did it and why they did it. And those are the things that we kept on running across, things that would just pop up that, somebody had some weird wiring that they did, or they went from, copper to PVC to PAX back to copper, and all those junction points would eventually spring a leak and cause us headaches. So,
Right.
yeah.
And how old are the properties that you're buying today?
Most of the properties we're buying today are 1980 or newer.
Okay. So yeah, I guess like when you look at a property that was built in 1890 or the early 1900s, it's like there's just been so many renovations over the years. So like, was that causing you a lot of problems too?
Yeah, so we still have some properties that are older like those. So we haven't gotten rid of all of them. However, most of them we did find, like, like I said, 3 to 4 different families have lived in
Mm,
there. And many times you'd have, 3 to 4 different DIYers, do it
right.
yourselfers, and they're doing whatever they thought was the best way to do whatever. And just hadn't been maintained.
Right.
The properties that we still own today that are older are ones that have had like maybe 1 or 2 owners, and they were pretty original houses. They were pretty
Mm,
original to the footprint of the original build. They didn't have multiple additions and stuff like that. So
right. Right. Yeah.
yeah.
Just less chopped up. So like, how do you figure out like how much to set aside for CapEx and repairs? I mean, I always find that when you put numbers on a spreadsheet, if you say I'm going to allot 10% of the rent to repairs, that's really just kind of a guess. Like you really don't know what it's going to be. So how do you kind of figure that out?
So I generally put 12% in there for
Okay.
everything. So there has been some studies I've seen where they said 12% is what you should expect.
Okay.
However, I do go back in there and I look at, okay, if the roof's not brand new, if it's only got 7 or 8 years on it, I'm gonna determine what the cost of a roof is and divide that up, into months there. So to
Mm,
factor that into my monthly cost.
right.
Same thing with a water heater, any of your major expenses. I'm going to try to figure out what life is left in it, and then divide that up so I can get that kind of calculated in there.
Right. So when you buy a property, are you renovating it or are you renting it out in whatever condition it basically is when you buy it?
We're doing light renovations now. We used to go through and redo everything. Of course, you know, back in the day, we were buying older, dilapidated houses. So now we're buying, houses that first time home buyers would be buying. So,
Right.
so there's a big difference in those. So, we're usually not going in and changing out water heaters and furnaces unless they just happen to be like at the end of their life. Then we will do that just so we don't have to have to deal with it while a tenant's in there.
Right.
But outside of that, yeah, I mean, we're freshening up the place, but that's about it. So
What about the neighborhoods? Are the neighborhoods different between the older houses you were buying and the newer houses?
yeah, so they're for the most part they are yeah, different neighborhoods. Yeah, there's a few that are kind of have some, a little bit of mix, but most of the neighborhoods are they're more, they're closer to like the median home price for our area. So, which is kind of makes it your bread and butter, makes it kind of more of a like a B class neighborhood.
Okay.
Where before, yeah, it was towards the lower end. So it was, lower income neighborhoods. And yeah, so definitely different clients of people renting those houses as well.
So do you find with the properties in better neighborhoods that you're getting a better quality tenant, or were you still getting good tenants at the C properties?
We still got a good number of tenants in both. However, we still see better tenants more consistently. So our delinquency rates are much lower on the newer houses than they are on the
Okay.
older houses. So yeah.
What about people staying longer? Turnover is always my biggest expense. So I like to minimize turnover as much as possible. Do you find that in the nicer neighborhoods, people are staying longer or not really?
Yeah, they actually are. So I agree with that statement. We do get significantly longer tenancy. Actually, I find it's one of our favorite renter profiles. We get a lot of like retirees or close to retirement folks, and they come in, they take care of the places super well. They want something that's easy to clean and take care of themselves, and they stay for a very long time. Actually, you would think
That's good.
they would only stay
Yeah.
for a couple of years, but they stay for quite a long time. So
All right. So the key then to consistent cash flow, and that's really what you want is you want the cash flow to be something you can count on, not something that is really good one month and then the next month you're losing money. But the key is buying newer properties and buying in better neighborhoods and accounting for what the expenses are going to be, more dialing in what the expenses are going to be.
yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really what it boils down to: buying nicer properties in better neighborhoods. You're paying more up front. I think that's something a lot of people don't see when they're looking at these. They're like, "Oh, I can buy a house for, a half the price of the ones that Greg's looking at." So that's a lower down payment for me. But then they don't
Hmm.
realize they got to drop, $30,000 into renovations that I'm only spending four or 5,000 into. And then I'm also just able to rent them out significantly faster because those older homes in those worst neighborhoods are actually, they take so much longer to rehab.
Mm,
Instead of taking 1 to 2 weeks, they're taking 3 or 4 months.
that's interesting. Yeah.
um, yeah.
Yeah. Well, all right, let's talk about how you got started buying rental property. So let's go back to the very beginning. How did you fund your first purchases? How were you coming up with those down payments?
So yeah, we bought our first house and lived there a few years, and then decided to buy another one. We bought a foreclosure. That foreclosure had some equity in it, so it wasn't a ton, but it was enough to give us, I think it was around a $25,000 line of credit. And so yeah, we turned our first house into a rental, and then we used the line of credit to start buying rentals, which we bought, three in the same day. So that kind of took up that
Three.
whole line of credit from the get go.
Wow, you bought three properties as a brand new investor. You bought three properties in one day.
Correct. Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
So how did that come about? Was it the same seller for all three properties?
So we had two sellers on that one. We had one was a foreclosure. So, and this was back in '07, '08, '09 time. So there was more foreclosures happening then. But the one was a foreclosure, and then the other two was I was calling for rent fines, and found a landlord who was wanting to downsize some of their properties, and so I bought the other ones off of them.
Interesting. All right, so you were looking for landlords that, like, were you thinking maybe they have trouble renting out this property, or maybe they're a tired landlord?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was
Yeah.
hoping he was either one of those situations. I called a lot of for rent signs, and I found a lot of landlords who got more than they wanted, so they were either wanting to get out of it completely, or they were an accidental landlord, or they were wanting to downsize. So
That's
just so it was
interesting.
easier to manage while they were
Yeah.
retiring.
So how does that conversation go when you call off a for rent sign?
Well, I usually call them up and just ask them about I say, "Hey, I'm calling. I saw the for rent sign," and they usually go into their sales mode, and they usually tell you about the property and the rent and all that stuff. And I would ask them, "Hey, I don't want to waste your time. I'm not looking to rent it. I was just curious if you're interested in selling it. I have rental properties too, and I'm trying to pick up some more." And they'll be frank with you. Most of the time, they'll say, "Yeah, I hadn't really thought about it," but then a lot of times they'll get back to you and say, "Yeah, I think I'd be interested. Let's talk." So
What a great idea. I'm going to have to try that. That's pretty good. Have you had any other creative ways to find deals like that?
Um, yeah, like I had, well, and sometimes, I mean, the deals find you. Like we had one that we had a short sale that we bought that they were getting ready to be sold for back taxes. So we got that one quickly. As we were renovating it, the neighbors all noticed, and one of the neighbors just said, "Hey, my mom, she has this rental house that she got that she doesn't want. Would you be interested in buying it?" And I was able to actually talk them into doing a contract for deed because I was like, "Hey, I just spent all this money fixing up this current house. Can we do a contract for deed for 2 years?" And yeah, they happily agreed to it. And yeah, I
That's
got that one under
awesome.
contract that way.
Now,
Um,
with the number of properties that you have, I mean, you've got a pretty big portfolio. Have you bought all those properties one at a time, or do you find like an investor ever that's selling several properties at once?
yeah, I mean, majority of my properties came in package deals. So we had the landlord that I had that had that I called the for rent sign. I found another person on Craigslist. They were selling their portfolio, and they were in pre foreclosure. So we were able to buy that one by signing on the dotted line. There was a landlord in town here that had hundreds of properties, and I ended up working out a deal to buy roughly 40 of his properties through directly with his banks. So we got those, and these are all off market deals. So for the most part, recently about a year and a half, 2 years ago, I bought a package. I had a gentleman who was in his early 70s. His father had passed away and left him a handful of rental properties. So he couldn't find a buyer to take the whole package. So we were able to snag those up.
How do you line up the financing for that? So like when you're buying a group of 40 rental properties, like how did you finance that?
So the way I've been doing, the way I did the 40 is a little different than I do now. But yeah, that I since he was in foreclosure at the time, the banks did not want to lose the properties. So I contacted the banks and was able to negotiate deals on all the packages. Yeah, each package usually had about 5 to 6 properties in it. We would have with the different banks. So yeah, we on some of the houses we negotiated um, no money down, and they even gave us money for fixing the properties up.
Wow.
The one deal he had, which was had still my favorite deal, one of my favorite deals, was that he had it was his better properties, his most recent purchases. The bank gave us a loan for 0% for the first year, and then 1% the following year, 2%, and so on until it hit
Wow.
5%. Um, so yeah,
Wow.
that was a fun deal.
So you didn't have to put any money in. Like so you're basically taking over the mortgage for the seller, but the bank was also giving you money to fix up the property.
Correct. Yep.
Wow.
Yep. On roughly 34, I think, of those 40. Yeah,
Like
they gave us the money to buy them and fix them up just by signing on the dotted line.
how did you work that out? Like did you offer that to the bank or did the bank come to you with that offer?
So I offered to take them over, and then um, and we all agreed that the properties needed money or needed work to be put into them. And I'm trying to remember. I think one of the bankers actually said, "Well, what if we did this because we don't want to be taking this back in another year."
Yeah.
So they had suggested it, and then I think we brought it up to the other banks, and they all was like, "Yeah, that's a great idea." It's just loaning more money for them. So as long as I can follow through, it was
That's
a
really
great deal for
awesome.
them. It turned a
Wow.
loss into a win. So
Yeah, that's good. I mean, the bank wants you to be successful. They want to make their money every month, so they really set you up for success. That's great. Now, at some point, you left your job. How many rentals did you have when you left your job?
I think I had I, in the 40s. I don't remember the exact number. I was in the 40s, which I
Was
just because I'd had about a dozen properties, and then I think I was still in the process of buying these 40. because they were packages. So that I bought those over like a 12 or 14 month period. So in the process of buying those properties in the 40-ish unit count.
So was that hard, like to walk away from the steady paycheck and, now you're living off rental income? Like, was that hard to kind of make that shift?
It wasn't hard, actually. It was exciting. It was exciting for me. My wife might have been a little bit nervous, but when we sat down and talked about it, like, the rentals we bought needed a bunch of work and they needed rented out, and I wasn't able to get that done doing a full-time day job. So it actually made more financial sense to just quit my job so that I could focus on the rentals and get them going strong.
And that goes back, I think, to why the consistent cash flow is so important, that you need that money to pay your bills. I mean, you can't have a month with no rental income coming in.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And when you have several of them hit at one time that aren't consistent, that hurts. That hurts a lot. So
yeah. So then when you left your job and you're going at this full time, did you find that you were finding more deals, like just because this was your focus every day?
yeah, I guess so. I mean, I was already in it, so I guess I was finding some more deals, but I feel like deals were coming pretty strong as they were, just because of networking with bankers and other real estate investors. Because we all think we're in competition, but honestly, like, there's deals some guys can't do, and
Right.
so that's another way of finding more deals.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I guess the more time you have to be doing that, then yes, the more time you can definitely find more deals. So.
Now, at some point, you opened up a property management company. What made you do that?
Yeah. So after going full time into being a landlord, and became president of the landlord association, just talking with landlords throughout during our meetings and lunches and whatnot, I just found a lot of them were making like the same mistakes over and over again and not exactly learning from it. And so as I dove into it, I saw that property management was a need. Like, it's something that people were looking for, because people didn't realize, especially in our market, they didn't realize that someone else could manage your properties for you. Everybody kind of thought they either had to do it themselves or they had to sell. So that sparked an interest in it, which led to me starting a property management.
Has it changed the way, like, managing properties for other people? Has that changed the way that you manage your own properties?
Yeah, I mean, to an extent, like, because I from the get-go wanted to, even before I was managing for other people, I established my own LLC as a management company long before I even had the thought of having a management company, because I wanted to manage professionally, or I wanted a professional experience for my residents. So with that, when I started managing for other people, I've learned a lot. Like, I've just learned, just from doing it, but learning from my investors that I manage for. Like, some of them have some interesting strategies on things, and now I've been able to duplicate that into my own properties. So it's been great.
If anybody wants to reach out to Greg, whether you're looking for a property manager in the Springfield, Illinois area, or you want to follow up with anything we talked about, I've got Greg's contact information on the website. You can find it at rentalincomepodcast.com/episode 537. If Greg inspired you and you're ready to buy your first property, or you want to add to your portfolio, reach out to our sponsor, Chaley Ridge. She's a nationwide lender. She has a ton of different loan programs, and she can find something that works for you. And right now, for a limited time, she's offering a free 30-minute strategy session to help you get a game plan together to build your rental portfolio. If you want to take advantage of that, just go to ridgelendinggroup.com, NMLS 42056. Thank you so much for checking out the podcast today. Make sure you hit the follow button, and that way you'll be notified every Tuesday when a new episode comes out. My name is Dan Lane, and this has been the Rental Income Podcast.